Hey everybody, I hope you all are doing well and welcome back to Michael's Matters. And everyone who is watching this, I would assume, has a number in their mind that they believe they would need to retire. Whenever they actually are retiring, whether it's today or tomorrow or 3 decades from now, we all have a very specific number that we think we will need to retire. And usually it starts with a number followed by 6 zeros and 2 commas. But even though we anticipate that we will probably need over $1 million in savings to live comfortably and retire, the actuality on the ground really is that there's not many people who actually get to that point. So today I want to talk about how many Americans actually do end up retiring with $1 million or more in their savings, and how many are falling short of that expectation. Now, this is Michael's Matters, and before we get to it, if you like these videos, if you find them interesting, if you find them helpful, or hey, if you at least find them useful, please don't forget to like and subscribe, because it really does help the channel to grow, and we are so thankful for that. But also because you get updates when our newest and most informative videos become available. All right, now, let's get down to the video. So let's start off today by talking about that nice round number. It just seems oh so sweet when we think about it, that it really is the first logical number that anyone gets to when they're thinking about how much money they need to have in savings when they retire, which is $1 million. Why we choose this one? Why is it the first one that comes to mind? I don't know. But at least to me, it seems like maybe it's sort of a Goldilocks number. It's not too small, like say $100,000, which we know is too small, but it's also not too big, like $3 million that we hope is not the real number and is also sort of impossibly big. So $1 million, it just feels nice. It just feels warm and cozy and the right number to land on. That being said, the number of Americans who actually have $1 million in some sort of savings, be it a 401k or a stock market or triple leveraged all cash, the number of those folks is quite small. Basically, only around 10% of retirees in the United States have $1 million or more in their savings. For people who are at the retirement age right now, or maybe even possibly above it, according to the Federal Reserve's Survey and Consumer Finance Report from 2019, it showed that retirees 65 up to 74 years old have around $426,000 on average in their savings, while those who are 75 years or older have $357,000, which is considerably smaller than that $1 million mark that a lot of us are aiming for. When we look at younger generations, the saving rate does seem to look a little bit better, because according to Schroeder's 2023 retirement survey, Americans who are age 45, which, let's remind ourselves, is just right above where the millennial generation is at, they estimate they would need just over $1 million to retire, and 21% of those folks in that group that were surveyed said they actually anticipate hitting that $1 million goal. But again, that is going to be down from 2022, where that number of folks who were that confident was at 24%. Now, to go along with this is another really important question, is that is $1 million even the right number to be shooting for? Because many of the folks in the baby boomer generation who are nearing that point where all of them are retired, well, I mean, they were born between 1946 and 1964, and that means that they had a majority of their prime working years in the late 80s through the early 2000s, and at that time, $1 million was enough to retire. That is back in the day when $1 million was $1 million. You know, I mean, it meant something because, I mean, you could tell it was big enough to be the grand prize on shows like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or Super Jeopardy or maybe even Survivor. Was the Survivor $1 million? But today, those who are going to retire in the next 30 years, $1 million is not quite what it used to be. I mean, it's good, but it's not going to be life-changing in the same way. Also, as maybe a side note, when the Federal Reserve did look at the average retiree's net worth, so it included everything from cash and 401ks and stocks and bonds, as well as business equities, vehicles, credit cards, home equity, they found that in their study that the average American had about $1.2 million in net worth for those folks who are 65 to 74 years old. Of course, these folks surveyed are folks who are at the very beginning or already entered into, deep into it, knee deep, in fact, into retirement, and they've had a lifetime to acquire and grow their assets, that is the baby boomers. But one thing to consider is that all of these assets will eventually be passed down to Gen X and millennials and Gen Z in something that they're calling the Great Wealth transfer. But that is going to be a definite topic for another video. So how much would a person who is perhaps farther away from retirement need, if not $1 million? Well, for millennials right now, and of course this could change depending on a number of things, really many numbers of things, it is estimated that the average Gen Z or millennial right now will need around $120,000 to $150,000 a year for each year that they are retired to live comfortably. This would mean that by the time they get to retirement, for retirement that lasts between 10 and 12 years, depending if you're male or female, etc., and if you want to give yourself a bit of leeway, an average Gen Z or millennial would need about $3 million in savings for the retirement. Again, this is an average, and because it will really depend on how someone lives and where they live and when they decide to retire and all those things, but $3 million is where they're kind of putting it at. So with all that behind us, what are some of the real world things somebody within really any of these generations could do to help get those savings up if they're not there yet? I think that right now, and maybe my opinion is biased because I'm doing it, but I feel like it is one of the best times in the history of humanity to be able to increase one's savings. Yes, of course, inflation is relatively high and the cost of living is going up, but the one thing that we have right now that never really existed in previous times is the ability to monetize one's spare time, meaning you could have picked up a second job previously, or you could have done some work for somebody else, done some side work, been some handyman work, etc., like that. But right now with the gig economy or even YouTube, you can take that time you have that you're not making money, like not getting paid by the hour while you're not working, take those hours you're not working and figure out a way to get paid for them. Things like Uber, things like Lyft, DoorDash, these are all different ways, as well as YouTube. You could start a YouTube channel. I did it. It's possible, and put your labors towards that. And if you keep consistent at it, you definitely will add a few more dollars, not a ton, but a few more dollars to your monthly savings. In the long run, that all adds up and it really does help. Alternatively, if you are not in a position to do those kinds of things, you could utilize some of the more traditional strategies to increase your retirement income, like, for example, waiting to start taking your Social Security benefits at the latest possible date, which is at 70 years old, which if you do that, then your benefits will increase by as much as 30%. In this case, essentially in the same way that you are monetizing your time. If you were to do a gig economy, you're monetizing your time by delaying your benefits for an additional 30%. So I guess they're kind of similar. I guess what I'm getting at is there are really a litany of things that someone could do to pick up some additional cash to add into one's savings, and that over time could add up or help them get to that $1 million goal, or even just bump up their ongoing continual income on an ongoing basis. So their savings will go a little bit farther, the savings that they already have. All of that just obviously is just going to kind of depend on what somebody feels comfortable doing. But I think that right now, again, is probably the best time in history to be able to figure out how to make money out of those extra hours that you're, not working. All right, so that's it for today's Michael's Matters. And I really hope that you enjoyed this video. And if you did, if you found it interesting, if you found it helpful, if you found it useful, please don't forget to like and subscribe, because it does really help the channel to grow, and we are growing, and we are so thankful for that. But also because you get updates when our newest and most informative videos become available. So for Michael's Matters, I'm Michael, hoping that you take care of yourselves, take care of others, and have a happy, healthy